It was a Sunday afternoon in October, the kind of afternoon where the leaves outside were turning golden and the air smelled like cinnamon from the candles my daughter had lit in the living room. I was sitting on the couch with my two grown children, Nathan and Emma, planning our weekly family dinner like we always did. Everything felt peaceful. Everything felt right. Then the doorbell rang. I stood up to answer it, and when I opened that door, my heart stopped. The woman standing there was older now, her hair streaked with gray, her face worn by time. But I knew that face. I had loved that face once, and that same face had shattered my world 21 years ago. Before I get into what happened next, let me know in the comments where you are watching from today. If this story touches your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And what happened next changed everything I thought I knew about forgiveness and letting go. Let me take you back to where it all began. I met Diana when I was 24 years old. I had just graduated from Ohio State University with a degree in mechanical engineering. I was young, optimistic, and ready to take on the world. One afternoon, I walked into a small coffee shop in downtown Columbus to grab a quick cup before heading to a job interview. That is when I saw her. She was 22, working as a marketing assistant for an insurance company. She had this bright smile that could light up any room. As I was waiting for my order, she accidentally bumped into me and spilled her entire cup of coffee all over my shirt. She was mortified. She kept apologizing over and over, her cheeks turning red with embarrassment. But I just laughed. I looked at her and said, "Well, I guess this is my lucky shirt now." She laughed too. And in that moment, something clicked between us. We exchanged numbers that day. Our first date was at a small Italian restaurant near the river. We talked for hours about our dreams, our fears, our hopes for the future. Diana was everything I thought I wanted in a partner. She was fun, caring, and she made me feel like I was the most important person in the world. After 18 months of dating, I proposed to her on a rainy evening in the same coffee shop where we first met. She said yes with tears in her eyes. Our wedding was simple but beautiful. We got married at the Presbyterian church near my childhood home. My father, Harold, walked me through the preparations. He was a retired carpenter, a man of few words but deep love. My mother had passed away when I was 19, and my father had raised me alone after that. He told me on my wedding day, "Son, marriage is not about finding the perfect person. It is about loving an imperfect person perfectly." I carried those words with me. Diana and I bought our first home together in the suburbs of Columbus. It was a modest 3-bedroom house with a small backyard. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. When I was 26, our son Nathan was born. Holding him in my arms for the first time, I felt a love I never knew existed. 2 years later, Emma came into the world. Our family was complete. Those early years were filled with joy. I would come home from work and Diana would be waiting at the door with the kids. We would have dinner together, play in the backyard, and tuck the children into bed. I worked hard to provide for my family, putting in extra hours to earn promotions. Diana stayed home with the kids, and I thought she was happy. But when Nathan was 4 and Emma was 2, things started to change. Diana began complaining about feeling trapped. She said being a stay-at-home mother was suffocating her, that she was losing her identity. I understood. I really did. So I suggested she go back to work. We hired a part-time nanny, and Diana got a job at an event planning company. At first, it seemed like the perfect solution. Diana was happier, more energetic. She would come home excited about her projects and her colleagues. Then she started mentioning Marcus. He was a business partner, she said. He owned a chain of upscale restaurants and frequently hired her company for events. She talked about him constantly. Marcus drives a Porsche. Marcus has a vacation home in Florida. Marcus knows how to live. I did not think much of it at first. I trusted my wife completely. But then Diana started coming home later and later. She became critical of everything I did. My salary was not high enough. My clothes were not stylish enough. I had no ambition, she said. She would compare me to Marcus openly. Marcus would never wear that shirt to dinner. Marcus knows how to treat a woman. I tried to be better. I asked for more overtime at work. I bought new clothes. I took her to expensive restaurants that I could barely afford. But nothing was ever enough for her. One night I woke up at 2 in the morning and reached for Diana. Her side of the bed was empty. I walked downstairs and found her in the living room whispering into her phone. Her voice was soft, tender, a voice I had not heard her use with me in months. Then I heard her say it. "I love you too, Marcus. I will tell him soon." My blood ran cold. I stepped into the room and she looked up at me with wide eyes. There was no point in lying anymore. She admitted everything. She had been having an affair with Marcus for 6 months. She told me she did not love me anymore. Marcus was the man she was meant to be with, she said. He could give her the life she deserved. I begged her to reconsider, not for me, but for our children. Nathan was only 4. Emma was just 2. They needed their mother. Diana looked at me coldly and said, "They will be fine. Kids are resilient." 3 days later, she packed her bags and left. She walked out the front door without looking back. Nathan stood at the window watching his mother drive away. He tugged at my shirt and asked, "Daddy, when is Mommy coming back?" I held him tight and could not answer, because I did not know. Emma was too young to understand what was happening. She just kept asking for Mama over and over again. That night, after I finally got them to sleep, I sat on the kitchen floor and cried until I had no tears left. The first few weeks after Diana left were the hardest of my life. I had to take a week off work because I could not function. Nathan and Emma cried for their mother every single night. Emma, only 2 years old, would clutch one of Diana's old sweaters and refuse to let it go. She would press her face into it, searching for a scent that was fading a little more each day. Nathan became withdrawn. He stopped playing with his toys. He stopped laughing. He would just sit by the window waiting for a car that never came. I tried calling Diana. I called her dozens of times. I begged her to at least come see the children, just once, just so they would know she had not forgotten them. Her response was always the same. "I need space. I will contact you when I am ready." She never did. Not once in 21 years did she reach out to her own children. I had to hire a babysitter so I could go back to work. But between the mortgage, the childcare costs, and all the other bills, my paycheck was stretched to its limit. I sold my truck, the one I had saved up for years to buy, just to make ends meet. I remember standing in the parking lot after handing over the keys, feeling like I was giving away the last piece of my old life. Then my father stepped in. Harold was 62 years old. He had lost my mother just a year before Diana left. He was still grieving, still learning how to live alone. But when he saw what I was going through, he did not hesitate. He packed up his things and moved into our house. He looked me in the eyes and said, "Son, I raised you alone after your mother passed. Now, let me help you raise these 2. That man saved my life. He became the rock that held our family together. My sister Denise also stepped up. She lived in Cleveland, about 2 hours away. Every single weekend she would drive down to help. She brought clothes and toys for the kids. She taught me things I never thought I would need to know. She showed me how to braid Emma's hair, how to pick out dresses for school picture day, how to pack lunches that a little girl would actually eat. Without Harold and Denise, I do not know how I would have survived. But even with their help, there were moments that broke me. The first Mother's Day, after Diana left, Nathan came home from preschool with a handmade card. He had drawn a picture of a woman with yellow hair and a big smile. Inside, he had written, with the help of his teacher, "I love you, Mommy." He handed it to me that evening, his eyes red and puffy. "Daddy," he said, "can you give this to Mommy if you see her?" I took the card and told him I would. That night after he fell asleep, I put the card in a drawer and locked myself in the bathroom. I cried so hard I thought I would break. Emma started asking questions when she turned 3. She would see other children at the park with their mothers and ask, "Why do other kids have mommies, but I do not? How do you explain abandonment to a 3-year-old? You cannot." My father was the one who found the words. He knelt down beside her and said, "Your daddy loves you enough for 2 people, sweetheart." She seemed to accept that, at least for a while. The parent-teacher conferences were always difficult. I was almost always the only father in a room full of mothers. People would look at me with curiosity, sometimes pity. One mother once asked me cheerfully, "Oh, is your wife working today?" I just smiled and said, "It is just me." The look of awkward sympathy that followed made me want to disappear. To make ends meet, I switched to the night shift so I could be home during the day when Harold had his doctor's appointments. His health was not what it used to be. On weekends, I picked up extra work fixing cars in a neighbor's garage. Every dollar I earned went toward the children. School supplies, doctor's visits, new shoes when they outgrew the old ones. I never bought anything for myself. I did not need to. My children were my priority. Dating was out of the question. Several women showed interest over the years, but I could not bring myself to let anyone else into our lives. I was afraid of another betrayal. And honestly, I did not have the time or the emotional energy for romance. My children needed stability, not a revolving door of potential stepmothers. Years passed. Nathan graduated elementary school at the top of his class. Diana did not come. Emma performed in her first ballet recital, her little face beaming with pride as she twirled across the stage. Diana did not come. Nathan made the varsity basketball team as a sophomore and scored the winning shot in the championship game. Diana did not come. When Emma was in middle school, some girls started bullying her for not having a mother. They called her names, made cruel jokes. I had to go to the school and meet with the principal. I sat in that office, fighting back tears, wondering how I was supposed to protect my daughter from a wound that would never fully heal. Nathan graduated high school with honors and earned a full scholarship to Ohio State, my alma mater. I sat in the audience that day, Harold beside me, Denise on my other side. We watched Nathan walk across that stage, and I felt a pride so overwhelming I could barely breathe. Diana was nowhere to be seen. The summer before Emma turned 16, she caught a severe case of pneumonia. She was hospitalized for a week. For 7 days, I barely left her side. I slept in a chair next to her bed, held her hand through the fevers, and prayed harder than I had ever prayed in my life. Harold, too frail to visit, often went to church every morning to light candles and ask God to spare his granddaughter. When Emma finally recovered, she looked at me with tired eyes and said, "Thank you for always being here, Dad." Those 6 words made every sacrifice worth it. Now, let me bring you back to that October afternoon. I opened the door, and there she was. Diana, 21 years older. Her hair was more gray than brown now. Her face was gaunt with deep lines around her eyes and mouth. She was wearing simple clothes, nothing like the designer outfits she used to dream about. She looked tired, defeated. She managed a weak smile and said, "Conrad, it has been a long time." I did not respond. I just stood there looking at this woman who had once been my entire world. Behind me, I heard footsteps. Nathan and Emma appeared in the hallway. When they saw who was at the door, they froze. Nathan's face hardened immediately. "What are you doing here?" he asked, his voice cold. Emma grabbed her brother's arm, her fingers trembling. Neither of them moved to embrace her. Neither of them called her mom. I stepped aside and let Diana into the house, but I did not invite her to sit down. She stood in the middle of our living room, surrounded by photos of birthdays and graduations and holidays she had never been part of. She looked around, taking it all in, and then she started talking. She told us that Marcus had left her after 8 years together. He had found someone younger, prettier, more exciting. Just like that, Diana was discarded. He kicked her out of the house she thought would be hers forever. She had nothing, no savings, no career to fall back on. She had spent years being a trophy, and now she was worthless to him. She drifted from job to job. Waitress, receptionist, retail clerk. Her health declined. She was diagnosed with diabetes and high blood pressure. Without health insurance, the medications were too expensive. She had been living in a small apartment on the outskirts of Chicago, completely alone. Then she started crying. "I was young and stupid," she said. "Marcus promised me everything. He made me believe I deserved more than what I had. I believed him, and I lost everything that actually mattered." She looked at Nathan and Emma with desperate eyes. "I know I do not deserve your forgiveness, but I'm asking for it anyway. I want to be part of your lives again. I want to be there when you get married, Nathan. I want to meet my grandchildren someday. Please, give me a chance to make things right." The room was silent. Nathan stepped forward. He stood directly in front of Diana, looking down at her. When he spoke, his voice was calm, controlled, but there was ice beneath every word. "Do you know what I remember most about being 4 years old?" he said. "I remember standing at the window watching you drive away. I remember asking Dad when you were coming back. I remember crying myself to sleep every night for months waiting for you." He paused, his jaw tight. "I remember my 8th grade graduation. I looked out at the audience hoping maybe you would be there. You were not. I remember breaking my arm during a basketball game junior year. I was in so much pain. But the worst part was looking around the emergency room and realizing my mother was not coming." Nathan took a breath. "You did not leave us, Diana. You abandoned us. There is a difference. Leaving is what happens when circumstances force you apart. Abandonment is a choice. You chose Marcus over your own children." He shook his head slowly. "I forgave you a long time ago, not because you deserved it, but because carrying that hatred was destroying me. But forgiveness does not mean I want you back in my life. I have a father who was both mom and dad to me. I have a grandfather who showed me what unconditional love looks like. I do not need anything from you." Then Emma stepped forward. Tears were streaming down her face, but her voice was steady. "I used to dream about you," she said. "When I was little, I would imagine you coming back. I wrote you letters, dozens of them. I never had an address to send them to, so I just kept them in a box under my bed." She wiped her eyes. "When I was 15, I got really sick. Pneumonia. I was in the hospital for a week. At one point, the fever was so high, I was hallucinating. I kept calling out for you, 'Mama, Mama,' over and over." She looked at me, then back at Diana. "When I finally woke up, you were not there. Dad was. He had been there the whole time. He had not slept in days. His eyes were red, his clothes were wrinkled, but he was holding my hand. That is when I understood what love really means. Love is not just a word. Love is showing up. Love is staying. You did not stay." Emma straightened her shoulders. "I'm going to be a nurse. I'm going to spend my life taking care of people who are hurting. And part of the reason I chose that path is because I know what it feels like to be abandoned. I never want anyone else to feel that way." She met Diana's eyes. "I hope you find peace. I truly do. But you are not going to find it here. I hope you find what you are looking for, Diana. But it is not going to come from us." She called her Diana, not Mom, not Mother, just Diana. Finally I spoke. I had been quiet through everything, letting my children say what they needed to say. But now it was my turn. "Diana," I began, "do you have any idea what these past 21 years have been like?" I kept my voice steady. "There were nights I did not sleep at all because one of the kids was sick, and I had no one to share the burden with. There were times I wanted to give up, to just walk away from everything because it was all too hard. But I could not, because Nathan and Emma needed me. They needed at least one parent who would not abandon them. I told her about my father, how Harold had given up his peaceful retirement to help me raise his grandchildren, how he had cooked meals, driven carpool, attended school plays, and held crying children in the middle of the night, how he had done all of this while his own health was failing. Harold passed away 3 years ago. On his deathbed, he held my hand and said, 'You did good, son. I am proud of you.' Those were his last words to me. I used to hate you, Diana," I continued. "For years I wished nothing but misery on you. I wanted you to suffer the way you made us suffer, but carrying that anger was exhausting. It was poisoning me, so I let it go. I forgave you, not for your sake, but for mine and for the kids." I paused. "But forgiving you does not mean I want you back in my life. It does not mean I trust you, and it definitely does not mean I will let you hurt my children again." I walked to the front door and opened it. "You are not their mother, Diana. A mother stays. A mother sacrifices. A mother does not walk away from her children to chase a fantasy. You are just the woman who gave birth to them, and that's not the same thing." Diana stood there, tears streaming down her face, her mouth open but no words coming out. She looked at Nathan, then at Emma, then at me. She was searching for something, forgiveness maybe, a second chance, but she found neither. Finally she nodded. Slowly she walked toward the door. Before stepping outside, she turned back one last time. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm truly sorry." I looked at her and said simply, "I know." Then I closed the door. Through the window, I watched her walk down the driveway and disappear into the October afternoon, alone, just like she had chosen to be 21 years ago. After Diana left, the three of us sat in the living room for a long time without saying a word. Emma was crying softly, and I put my arm around her. Nathan went to the kitchen and came back with 3 glasses of water. He handed one to me, one to Emma, and kept one for himself. We did not talk about Diana. There was nothing more to say. Instead, Nathan started telling us about his wedding plans. He had proposed to his girlfriend Sarah 6 months earlier, and they were planning a spring ceremony. Emma talked about her new job at the hospital, about the patients she had already grown attached to, about how fulfilling it felt to help people heal. I listened to my children, these 2 incredible human beings who had overcome so much, and I felt a peace I cannot fully describe. That night we cooked dinner together the way we always did on Sundays. We made spaghetti with homemade sauce, a recipe Harold had taught us years ago. We laughed. We teased each other. We were a family, a complete family, even without Diana. Later that evening, I sat alone on the back porch. The stars were bright and the air was cool and crisp. I thought about Harold. I could almost hear his voice, steady and reassuring, telling me what he had told me so many times before. The best revenge is a life well lived, son. He was right. I had not spent the last 2 decades trying to get back at Diana. I'd spent them loving my children, building a home, creating a life worth living. And in doing so, I had won. Not against Diana, but against the pain she had caused. I thought about all the people who had helped me along the way. Harold, of course. Denise, who never missed a weekend for years. The teachers who stayed late to help Nathan with his homework. The coaches who saw potential in Emma. The co-workers who covered my shifts when the kids were sick. I had never truly been alone. I'd been surrounded by love the entire time. That was worth more than anything Diana could have given me. For a long time, I blamed myself for her leaving. I thought maybe I had not been successful enough, handsome enough, exciting enough. But over the years, I came to understand that Diana's choice was about her, not me. She was chasing something that did not exist, a fantasy of perfection, and when that fantasy crumbled, she had nothing left. I learned something important through all of this. Forgiveness is not about the other person. It is about setting yourself free. I forgave Diana because I did not want to carry that bitterness anymore. But forgiving someone does not mean you have to let them back into your life. It does not mean you have to pretend the hurt never happened. You can forgive and still protect yourself. You can release the anger and still maintain boundaries. That is not cruelty. That is wisdom. The next morning, I drove to the cemetery where Harold is buried. I brought a small bouquet of yellow flowers, his favorite. I knelt beside his headstone and talked to him the way I always do. "She came back, Dad," I said. "After all these years, she showed up at the door expecting forgiveness. But we are okay. We are more than okay." I paused, looking at his name carved in the stone. "You would be proud of Nathan and Emma. They have grown into such good people. And I like to think I had something to do with that. But really, it was you. You showed me how to be a father. You showed me how to love without expecting anything in return." I stood up and looked toward the horizon. The sun was rising, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. A new day. A new chapter. Diana had come and gone like a ghost from a past life. Her visit had stirred up old memories, old wounds, but it had also confirmed what I already knew. I did not need her. My children did not need her. We had built something beautiful without her, and that was something no one could take away. There are wounds that never fully heal. I know that. There will always be a scar where Diana's betrayal cut deepest. But scars are not weaknesses. They are proof of survival. They remind us of what we have been through and what we have overcome. As I drove home that morning, I thought about what I would tell someone going through the same thing, and I realized it comes down to this. Sometimes the people who leave us give us the greatest gift of all. They give us the chance to discover how strong we really are. They force us to build a life we never would have imagined. And in the end, we become better, not in spite of the pain, but because of it. I pulled into my driveway and looked at the house where I had raised my children alone for 21 years. It was just a house, wood and brick and glass, but inside those walls there was love. there was sacrifice. There was a family that refused to break, and that was more than enough. If this story resonated with you, I would love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had to decide whether to forgive someone who hurt you deeply? How did you find the strength to move forward? Please share your experiences in the comments below. Your story might help someone else who is going through something similar. If you found meaning in this video, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need to hear it today. And if you have not already, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you do not miss any future stories. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope that wherever you are, you find the courage to let go of what hurts you and hold on to what makes you stronger. Take care of yourselves and each other. Until next time.